So today what you're going to do is you're going to put into practice everything that you've been learning about how to create different tones with mark making. So we created a tonal bar not long ago, and we talked about the ways that you can use lines to create different tones. So if we look at this section here, you can see these lines are quite far apart. The pressure is very gentle. That means you're getting nice kind of bright highlights. Or if you want a complete highlight where the light is shining really brightly, then obviously you just use a kind of the white of the paper. In contrast, where we've got this dark area here, we've got lots and lots and lots of lines, and they're really close together, running in lots of different directions, layered on top of one another to create this very dark tone. I don't want people to worry about this background. That I want that to be the very last thing you do. I would like everybody just to focus on the actual shoe itself. Now my advice to you would be to create these lighter tones first, just like we did when we were using pencil. It's much easier to create these lighter tones. And if you wanted like an area which has got some shadow in, see for example just under here where the lace is casting a shadow, and just under here at the edge of the shoe, just in the toe where it curves around, then you could simply layer those on top afterwards. I'm not going to demo the whole shoe, but I'm going to demo doing some highlights, creating some shadows, and talking about how to use different kind of layers, and you're thinking about spacing. So if we look at this section here, we're going to focus on doing some of these laces. Something else that I want you to think about, I want you to think about the way that the lines move. So I want you to think about creating the illusion of form, that means shape. So you can see that these lines flow up and down, and they run sort of vaguely, sort of roughly parallel to the outside line of these laces here, and you can see they curve around there, and again these lines are also curving. So think about these things because they can really help with the quality of your drawing, and as I said, creating the illusion of form or shape. Okay, so I'm just going to start, as I said, by doing some of these laces here. All right. So if I spin this round, remember it's really important to think about a comfortable position for your hand. Let me just make sure you can actually see it. So I'm going to spin it one more time, and I'm going to have it this way around so that I can have my hand inside the curve here. So I want to start my line at the bottom, okay, and I'm going to press a little bit, kind of put a little bit more pressure at the bottom, and then I'm just going to roughly, kind of as I said before, kind of vaguely follow the outline shape of these laces here. Now I don't want too much, okay? I don't want to apply too much pressure, but as I said, I do want to kind of have a very kind of light, faint, kind of very spaced apart set of lines. Now here what I'm going to do, because I want a slightly darker tone there, sorry that's not in focus, it's really difficult to get it all in focus. That's a bit better. Okay. Now I'm going to start adding those layers that we practiced doing before. Again, I'm going to start in the darker section, okay, and I'm just going to build those up slowly. I could just zoom in a little bit, it might be easier for you to see. Okay, so I'm going to build those up slowly, like this. Okay, in one direction like that. Then I'm going to go, let's have a look, then I'm going to go over the top like that. And as I move along the lace, you can see that I'm kind of spreading those lines out, and then eventually I want to have almost no lines going in that direction there. So I'm just having a few lines at the bottom, and as I said, by the time I get up to here, I don't want any of those diagonal lines. So it's really up to you. You can build lots of lines closer together like this. This will also create a darker tone, or as I've said before, you can start thinking about layering lines over in a different direction. So I've just put some over here like that. Now this section here is really dark, so you would obviously want to apply like a nice heavy pressure here, just to create the illusion of that lace going into a hole like that. So that's much darker already. So I'm going to do one more on this lace here, and then we're going to move on to demoing the toe. So again, I'm starting my pen at the back. I'm just flicking those lines gently into the center of the lace. You might want to create a kind of a little bit more detailed information here. You can see there that I've just kind of made that line slightly kind of ragged. So I've not made it a perfectly smooth line. And that's because in the photograph, you can just make out the way that the weave in the laces changes ever so slightly. But that's up to you. So as I said, start in the darker section, always start in the shadows, and kind of bring those lines out towards the center of the lace, and then just let them kind of fade away. Really important to practice pressure when you're doing this. So again, just like before, I want to add some very faint lines, very faint diagonal lines over that section there. Okay, I'm just doing them quite delicately at the moment. Okay, I know I keep saying this, but it's really important to remember that it's so much easier to add lines, okay, or in fact tone of any kind, than it is to take it away. So I'm just going to put another set of lines going the other direction. I'm spacing them out so they're really, really, really far away now, and then just fade them into nothing. Again, I want to make this much darker area here, where I've got this kind of very, very dense shadow, where the lace just actually goes into the eyelet there, look, see? Okay, so that's kind of probably enough for those sections of the laces now. Right. So you can see on the toe of this shoe, what I've done is I've just created like a base layer really of like a very faint mid-tone, and then all I've done is I've just gone in and added some more layers of lines for areas like the shadow under the lace, or the side of the shoe where the shoe curves round, and obviously that is in shadow here. So the easiest way to do that is, as I said earlier, just to create a bit of a base layer really. Okay, remember to orientate your shoe, so move it round to make it a little bit easier to work with. I'm going to choose to kind of pull my lines round a little bit, as I said, just to kind of create the illusion of a curve on that shoe. Now I'm going to try really hard not to go into this lace, look, because this lace wants to remain fairly pale. So the best thing to do is to start your pen there. Ooh, be careful of blobs, don't worry if it happens, it's just unfortunately the nature of the media. You can see I've just come outside there a little bit, try to avoid that if possible. Nice faint lines at the moment. Okay, if you want to, you can bring it from the bottom, flick it inwards, then bring it from the top, so in the bottom, flick it inwards, from the top, flick it inwards, and then that way it's much less likely that you're going to come out of this box and you're going to create like a much nicer kind of smooth, controlled finish. Ooh, there you go, there I am sticking outside the box again. Okay, so that's just one layer of cross hatching. Well, it's hatching at the moment, isn't it? So obviously I need to add another now. So again, turn your paper round, find an angle that's comfortable for you to work at, okay, and then I'm just going to put a diagonal set of lines over the top of that area here. Remember, I want this to be a fairly light mid-tone. I don't want to create like a dark shadow at the moment. I'm going to go in and I'm going to add those later. Okay, so just layering it over the top. Remember, work from the outside in, and then you're much less likely to create kind of messy, poorly controlled drawings. There we go. Alright, now I still think that is a little bit light in some places. So you can see, for example, I've got this shadow here which is cast by the lace, this really dark shadow here, and then this section on the side where the shoe curves downwards. So I'm going to just turn my shoe around, try and get both the before and after in shot if I can. Okay, right, so I've turned my shoe around, okay, and now I want to work back into it, and as I said, I want to create some darker shadows. So I'm just going to start at the dark section. I'm just going to flick my lines over like this. I might have some in the opposite direction as well. Remember, really close together creates a much darker tone, and you can see that as I come across this shoe, I'm just moving those lines slightly further apart. I'm kind of releasing the pressure as well. I want to just go along this kind of seam here just to neaten that up, and I want to do the same on there, look. So I'm just going to take my pen, I'm just going to work it into those areas to make sure that I've got this kind of nice neat crisp edge to this shadow section. Okay, again, do stop every so often, remember to check your work, look back at the reference image. Is an area too dark? Okay, and do you need to stop adding tone to it, or vice versa? Okay, so you can see now that I've built up this dark area here which creates the illusion of a shadow. I want now to create this little shadow that is cast by the lace here. So again, I would turn that round so that I can access that a little bit more easily, and I would just very gently layer some kind of fairly gentle pressured lines over the top like that. And this time I do want to stop that tone a little bit abruptly, because that's how it actually looks in the real photo. You can see that that line stops fairly abruptly, and so, as I said, I want to replicate that within my drawing. But I just want to soften that edge, so I'm just going to flick some, can you see that? I'm just going to flick some diagonal lines in the opposite direction. Okay, so I'm not going to do the whole thing. Okay, have a look at the example, completed example on your tables, and try and kind of recreate that in your own work. As I said, a little bit of a really dark shadow there. Oops, careful about not to go over the lines. Okay, so eventually, as I said, it will look something like that. You just need to kind of keep adding on layers.